Welcome to Tool Thinker. Thanks so much for joining us. At Tool Thinker, what we do is we support startups by providing them resources that they need to grow. So I noticed that you are definitely in that niche. That's where you live.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. I don't know. How would you define yourself though?
In terms of career-wise, or like in terms of
I mean, would you define yourself as a writer?
like an author?
As a VC?
I'm an entrepreneur, so I started an LLC. So I guess I have a podcast too, and I think you could say author and entrepreneur. That would be a good one. I think that there's so many things that people do. It's just which hat am I on today?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I like those titles if you ask me.
Yeah, for your background, like where did you grow up?
I grew
How
up
did
in
it start?
the Bay
Yeah.
Area, San Francisco, Bernal Heights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Parents are from Philippines though, so we're a bit first. I'm first generation, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was an only child, so that might give you more background info. But I don't have a cool story like I flew here from Jamaica or anything like that.
That's okay. You're from San Francisco, yeah? It's not cool to you because you live in it. But I think that's super cool where you're from and some of the stuff that you're going to be talking about today. I find it super cool because I didn't grow up there, right?
Yeah, man. I hear you. I was just in New York a couple days ago, so I guess being an American means more than just the city, but definitely where you grew up in America makes a big difference into
Yeah,
perception and a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
relationships and stuff.
yeah. So how different was it? Like, did you find growing up in California, did it shape your mindset? Was that why you started thinking about startups?
Just growing up in San Francisco and I was there before those things showed up, right? Like 1995 was the year I was born, and then I grew up here, and startups was not the talk of the town. The talk of the town would have been probably like, I don't know, just something else. Like I was a kid like maybe it could have been just business and law or whatever. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really like a Airbnb or like a Google in the early 2000s, or they were there but we didn't care, So or
Yeah,
Airbnb might not have been there, but it could have been called Craigslist or something. It's
right.
just that the world was a lot different 20 years ago and during my childhood. So
Uh-huh.
um, growing up here and then seeing all that stuff come into a city that you have a long lasting relationship with is something that actually doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion.
Which part of it?
The part of like how all the jobs from those tech companies and venture capital, like investments, like changed the whole world and the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because once you put a lot of money into something, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah.
That's too deep for
Yeah.
you, man. It's 8 a.m. It's too deep
No,
for
no,
me.
no, no.
It's
I
too deep
love
for me.
this.
It's only
I
8
love
a.m. It's
this.
only
I
8
love
a.m.,
this.
bro.
So when you say change the world, you mean change it from a negative perspective?
There's definitely both. I think that, technology, right? Like even the AI advancements today, like we'll see that, people aren't reading anymore, or like people don't think about what they say to each other because there's a robot that tells them what to do, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that's really bad. But then again, it's like you could ride a driverless car and have the time of your life and, enjoy what AI has to offer. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the same thing with any form of technology, even if that was like when we discovered how to make electricity and like, or even the telephone, like now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you don't have to write letters or anything.
Mm-hmm. So you say
But
there are pros and cons, but it seems like we're only talking about the pros, eh?
yeah, of course. I mean, the negative mental health things that people love to blast into the world is definitely from technology. Like,
Right. Right.
I'm
The
like,
w-
you
the
don't blame yourself, blame the technology too. It's their fault.
when it comes to social media, I always tell people, I said, when I used to go to school, when
Hmm.
I left school. and then I
Mm-hmm.
went back the next day. Or when I left school and I went home for the weekend, I wouldn't see those people
Oh
until
God.
I went back to school on Monday. But no, you leave school, but you're still on social media with the same people.
Yeah,
You don't
bro.
get a break, right?
Unless you turn off the social
Unless you
media.
turn off, which never happens.
I turn it off.
Yeah,
I turn it
I
off.
mean, I think you're one of the few. I think because even elderly people, I see them like
Yeah.
just swiping,
So
just
so
responding to the AI feed.
so I have an English degree, right? And before I got the English degree, I was a high school junior, and I read a book called 1984.
Yeah.
It was by George Orwell. It was talking about like groupthink and like Big Brother and like how like maybe like you know the government or whatever entity you want to put that on is in charge of your life to a certain extent. And like
Mm-hmm.
I found that the best moments of life are not put on your social media, right? Like it's the ones that you are jumping for joy and you don't care if it's on a film or not, you know? Like
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
it's just bullshit on social media half the time.
tell that to the Gen Z.
Gen Z, listen up
try,
and
try
buckle your
telling that.
seatbelt.
Huh? They don't know anything else. Like, what are you talking about? Prehistoric world?
Gen Z just get out of the garbage just or stay there. We don't care.
Yeah, but yeah. So I didn't even think about San Francisco as a place before all these big companies, and I didn't. It's like you're saying, it's just the media and what they give us. I didn't think about it until you just said it, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when did you start to see that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, as I was like graduating high school, 2023 or 2013 was the year. But I went to college for 4 years, right? And like when I would come back for summer break, like one time in 2015, the city felt strange to me. Like it just felt like there was an influx of people from all over the world who I've never seen before and didn't weren't from here. So it's like you could tell, right? Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
if I were to show up in Jamaica, right, or maybe like if Jamaica became the hub of tech for some odd reason, he would say, "Oh yeah, this ain't like normal." So
Yeah.
it's just the fact that growing up here, and I noticed it too when I was buying food, like at my favorite restaurant. I'm like, I don't have enough to buy this anymore. Like, what am I gonna do? So it's like the food prices jump from seven ninety
Right.
nine to like $20 or even 12. So it's like I have to spend my time differently now. So it's like, and of course, anyone's going to notice an economic change, whether it's a kid or whether it's an adult. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's what I noticed it. But I also noticed too, like I was like aware of like what is Uber, what is Lyft, what is Airbnb, and then all those corporate headquarters were here. So it's like, oh, that's cool. But then it's like, oh, maybe I want to work for them, or maybe I want to understand like why they exist. So that's
Yeah.
that's what I wrote about in my book, like why they exist and a little
Okay.
bit of that.
Okay. So it made you start to think about why these companies exist, and
Mm-hmm.
from then on you started thinking about them, it seems.
Yeah, man, it's just like why like to an outsider, like why is it so successful? Like I went to Slack as a receptionist for like one of my first jobs out of college, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, what is this? And then like it's a messaging app, and then it's like, how do they have all this money? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Because like it didn't make any sense to just hear about something for the first time, and like all these people were coming into town to like worship the company. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
made zero sense. So it's just like, what do I make of it, and how do you explain this to like yourself? And
Mm-hmm.
it was an interesting thing, but I mean, they do good things. I use Slack, and
Yeah. So
it's
that
good.
time, that was when Slack was just a startup.
Yeah, 2017. Yeah, so they were probably Series B or C.
Right. Right. And what was happening around you in that company when you were working there?
Yeah, it was a cool time. Like just people working on the product, and I guess I was a
Mm.
receptionist, so I didn't even know what they were doing. But just I guess like every operation has its own way of operating. So just
Yeah.
it was an office, and people came and worked and did engineering and all the other things that are involved with the technology company. But it was fun. I like the food.
Do you know do you know how many people were working there at that time?
My guess is in the hundreds.
Yeah. So Series B, you're already at in the hundreds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess like 10 years ago would have been like the cool time to glamorize these startups, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if
Mm-hmm.
they're going to succeed or not either. It's just like, oh, they ran out of money. Boo-hoo.
Well, definitely. I mean, what's the success rate for startups?
Probably
It's
less than in the
pretty
single
low.
digits number.
It's pretty low. Yeah, it's pretty low. I mean, because for people out there that are getting into startup, you're getting into something that's it's very risky, and I think it's something that they should face right from the get-go. That not saying not to get into it for sure, if that's your passion, but it's risky.
Yeah, but tell me what isn't risky in life, right? Like what we're gonna
Yeah.
be like stuck doing what we've
Uh-huh.
always done and like never advance our lives. Like that's a sad story in my opinion.
Well, see, you touch on a very good point. Advancing life and the role that these startups play in advancing our lives, right? And the people that decided to take that leap to actually do that, right?
They're the stories that never get told.
Yeah, yeah. But there are some people too that like say for example the researchers that actually researched and discover the technology before you even get the startup in a lot of cases. Those people you never even know, you don't even know that they exist and their contribution to technology that you're using right now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was once upon a time a guy named Steve Jobs who changed
Yeah.
all of our lives.
Yeah, but he takes the researcher's end result and
Yeah,
he
you're right
turns
too.
it into a product. We
A little
still
bit.
don't know who discovered the technology that he implemented in the iPhones or the
Y-
tablets.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't tell you, although
We don't know. We don't know.
he did.
And the humble thing about it is that those people don't want to be known either.
You might be right.
They don't want to be known. They don't want to go on TV. They just want to do their research.
What do you think was more life-changing, the airplane or the iPhone or the smartphone? Smartphone. I would say
I
the
think
airplane.
smartphone. I think smartphone. And here's why I'm gonna give it to smartphone. Even with the airplane, there's still regulatory issues. There's still barriers. But with the smartphone, you can call anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it bridged the gap more than the airplane.
Yeah.
But 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 yeah, that's why I would give the smartphone. Because communication is very important because we're about to take another leap too that people I don't think are appreciating. And that's where the barrier between languages, AI is going to break that.
So like you could speak Spanish and I'll speak like Chinese and we'll understand each other.
You don't need to know my language. It will translate and we can just talk to each other. So a lot of
Oh God.
hidden information that wasn't crossing over will be crossing over again. And I think that's another leap
Where do
as
we
it
where do we
relates to
put our money
communication.
in, Mark, so we make millions of dollars? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's a big question that everybody well, we are always asking as people that like to invest, right?
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but
Nvidia.
but I
It's
mean,
already shipped. The ship has already went away. You know what
I,
I mean?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Nvidia can find a way to diversify and get into more products that's not really the chip,
Mm-hmm.
um which I think they're doing. If they can do that fast enough, I think they still have a lot more to do.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's just that it's you can't predict the future, but I mean,
you, you
that's
can't
that's the
you
beauty of
can't
it. That's the beauty of it.
but talking about startups and understanding startups, I think we do have an advantage by
Mm-hmm.
understanding how they work. and the mindset that you wrote about, right? So yeah, you started to see that transition, um, and that you started thinking about it more, and you got to the point where you started to write about it. So you wrote this book, um, The Startup Mindset,
Sets with the S.
right? Mindsets. Yeah, that's important too. So what are the startup mindsets?
You know, it's an interesting one, but it comes down to the people behind it. So it's really just about, finding an idea and putting your money where your mouth is and using whatever you have to make that idea real.
Yeah.
Like in terms of a product or people or, engineering, like it's that. I mean, but I think I didn't write the book for like your shitty computer science majors.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the book for anyone who it's more of a self-help book. So I wrote the book for people in life who want to achieve something and there's fear and doubts inside of them that they need to
Mm-hmm.
not only get rid of but, overcome, and I think like startups are a great example of, you know, making it through challenges and all that. So and finding something you're drawn to doing. I think like life is something that is done based off the actions and thoughts you have, and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time it's always in favor of let's just get through the day or like let's make money. But I think the thing is you got to find something that makes you feel alive. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think life is really about going big after your biggest aspirations, and not letting what he says or she says get in your way, because I think that's a sad way to live.
Mm-hmm. And you think the startup mindset will help people?
Oh, it has. I've gotten like dozens of messages from people saying, "This has inspired me. I'm quitting my job. I just left my job. I used to be a marketing
Oh,
director. Now I'm running a coffee shop." I'm like, "Hey, good for you, man. I didn't mean to do it that fast."
right. And you said mindsets. So
Uh-huh.
how do you differentiate these mindsets?
It's a good thing. I think people have to read that and tell me the answer, but I would just say that there's a different approach to doing everything, right? Like one size doesn't fit all. Like
Right.
I could tell you all these informations of what I've done and how I got here to where I am, but it's not gonna match your. I have a cousin, and I think he was telling me like, shout out to Jim Narvios if you need a lawyer in Texas, but
Right.
he was telling me that we're all the holders of our paintbrushes, right? Like we can't
Mm-hmm.
expect to make our masterpiece the way that you made it. Like even if we
Mm-hmm.
have the same genes or the same money or like the same like um you know same like ingredients, right? Like it's always gonna be unique to you. So
And the timeline is always different because time is
timeline's
always
different, man.
right.
Timeline's different,
Yeah.
and
So.
everybody has a different definition of success. So
Uh-huh.
you can't expect to live your life off of what somebody else defines as success when they're a loser in their own right.
Yeah. 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 Um. Are you arguing in this book that everyone should adopt this mindset, the startup mindset?
I don't know. I think that it could help. I'm just saying that I have these ideas and they're worth, debating or arguing over. But I
Mm-hmm.
think like when we did analyze technology companies and people's success stories, like there were case studies that show that if you do X, Y, and Z, you might, you know, end up selling your company for a bunch of money, or you might,
Mm-hmm.
you know, make a product that helps the world in some way or the other. So,
Mm-hmm.
or you might
Mm-hmm.
change your life. You might go after that thing that you thought was not in your reach, because at the end of the day, it's there's always a way. There's never a thing that should be out of your reach because you told yourself it wasn't. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
there's there's
Mm-hmm.
always like a route to the things you want.
And when did you decide to write this book?
Yeah, we started writing in 2020 when that shitty pandemic happened, man.
Right. Right.
Um, but we got it published, I believe, last year, late last year, and our publisher was Penguin Random House. I'll bring it up just so like
Yeah.
here we go, Penguin Random House.
Yeah.
I'm not that smart, man.
I'll
But
I'll take the picture down and make sure I get it in when we're talking about it.
yeah,
But you just woke up one day and decided that, hey, I wanted to write a book. Like,
um, I think that's different for everyone. I think going back into like the earlier conversation about like the technology people coming to San Francisco and changing the environment. I wanted to write a novel about that. But
mm-hmm,
my good friend Earl Valencia came to like the office one day and he had this idea for the book originally. So I didn't have the idea. Earl had the idea, and I just came with the co-founder
mm-hmm.
extra support. And now yeah, we share the book. So it's like it's like people do things in groups, right? Like it's never one
Mm-hmm.
person, like people give me the credit. It's just I shout out a lot of people in the back who made that happen.
Right. And you guys decided, okay, you came to the office, you guys decided that you wanted to write a book. What were the next steps? What were the challenges? Like, how did you get all this information that's in the book?
Yeah,
By the way,
yeah,
it's a great book. I started to read it. I'm gonna make sure I finish it by tomorrow. But it's really fun, and I think
thank you, man.
people should definitely. I can tell that it has a lot of information in it. Coming from someone that's from the San Francisco Bay, that saw the transition, has worked at these startups, and has seen the impact and can appreciate the pros and cons. So you get
Yeah.
everything in this book. Yeah.
Yeah, man, Mark, that means the world to me, man. I just, there's a lot in the book, There's a lot in the book, although, um, I guess a lot of the books I've read too, right? Like they try to tackle one part of the equation when it comes to like solving a problem or doing something big. I think that there's never just one variable around.
Mhm.
There's many variables that need to be answered. So
Yeah. But so you guys how did you guys create all the information that you have in the book? As it has
we
quite
we
rich information.
we went through a lot of these things, but also I had a podcast like you too, so I would
Right.
just
Right.
invite some people. Sometimes it was the head of growth marketing at Spotify, like Earl knew them, and then sometimes it was Sean Gold, who's a big
Yes.
philosopher.
Shout
Sometimes
out
it
Sean
was
Gold. Yeah. Good
sometimes
guy.
it was like a boxer. Sometimes people would come up to me and say, "Hey Dan, let me be on the podcast." I'm like, $500. No, just I actually did do that sometimes, but
Yeah.
I mean, what else was it? When you want to write something, you do like find yourself trying to learn about the subject. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess you start writing, right? Like how do you build a AI product? You start
Yeah.
coding. You start getting people together, and you make you buy the equipment you need and the
Yeah.
software you need, and that's how that works, right? Like how do you do anything in life is what
Yeah.
I would answer you.
What about the publishing though?
Oh, yeah, we had to convince a a person all the way in Singapore to take a chance, but words have words unlock the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. But that's pretty cool that you guys were able to turn your thoughts into a book and get the book out there, get it published. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll tell you
yeah.
something that I have learned during this time. So I've always known that, you know, it's very important for you to identify your customer and all of that. But Tool Thinker, the reason it's called Tool Thinker is because we had a solution which was frameworks, and we were pushing frameworks as a solution for entrepreneurs. We didn't really know we were targeting yet. It sounds like we know who we're targeting, but then there's a difference when you really know your customer. After a while, we broke it down to, okay, let's dig a little bit deeper. Who do we really want to target here? Then when we went down to the startup founder, everything started to change.
Oh, wow.
Like everything else about business and startups started to make sense. Until you identify who your real customer is, you're not really where you should be as a startup.
Yeah, I
And
hear
I'll
you.
tell you, I'll show you what I mean. So when you identify, let's say, a startup founder, and then we even went deeper and we said, okay, a solo startup founder.
Mm-hmm.
Once you said that, now you start to think about what are the jobs that that person or customer would hire your product for. And the reason I say it that way, there's a framework called jobs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what that framework does is it tries to identify why did this customer hire this product to solve this job.
Wow.
That's why it's called jobs to be
My,
done.
is that a book or is that in your book or where did you put that?
It's a framework. Like a lot of people write about it, and there are people that has just built a career around jobs to be done. It's in my book too. Yes. So say for example, someone goes to Tim Hortons to buy a coffee, right?
Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Or yeah, let's say
Timmy's.
Starbucks. Starbucks.
Starbucks.
I'm in Canada.
Starbucks.
I'm Canadian. So they go to Starbucks to buy a coffee, right?
Yeah.
When they go to buy that coffee, why did they buy that coffee? Right?
Because they
That
wanted
coffee
to.
is solving a job for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanna wake up in the morning because they have a meeting coming up at 8 o'clock, and
Yeah.
it wakes them up in the morning. Maybe they went there because
Yeah.
they didn't want the meeting to be the first conversation that they had, so they went to talk to somebody at Starbucks. Maybe they didn't want to make a coffee because it slows them down. They have to wake up earlier
Yeah.
to make that coffee. So
Yeah.
Starbucks has that coffee already made. So why not just grab that coffee and sleep a little bit longer? But that
Oh.
product is solving a job for that customer. And once you understand what the product is doing,
Mhm.
now you can create alternative solutions.
I gotta read that book. Jobs to be done, man. That's a good one.
Jobs to
Starbucks
be
and then
done.
Tim Hortons.
So it's super important. So when I started to identify the startup founder as my customer, immediately I started to see what are the jobs that they have. And you can just type it in even like ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, what kind of job is this customer paying for right now? And it will list all the jobs that they're paying for currently. And you can choose to solve any one of those problems that that customer has. And you can start a business, as well as you can be innovative and dig a little bit deeper and find unique jobs that nobody is solving yet. And you can build a business to solve that job. But you can't do any of those things until you realize your customer and you realize their problem. Because the business is just a solution to a problem. All of a sudden, your mission for your business comes alive. Because once you identify the job, then now your mission is to solve that job. Your mission is to solve that problem that
Sorry
that
about that.
customer has. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
your
100%.
mission for your business also gets created down there.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah. There's not all this soul searching you have to do. They try to make you do.
And I'm telling you, everything else starts to make sense. Everything else starts to make sense. And when we started Tool Thinker, we weren't at that stage. When I wrote my book, Start Smart, it's on Amazon too.
Mm.
For entrepreneurs, I wasn't at that stage. But that's why people do editions, right? I can tell people exactly how to start a business. I can tell a startup founder or an aspiring startup founder exactly what they should be doing, right? What makes you happy? What you find yourself doing all the time, even when you're not at work, you're willing to do it for free. You look in that area, you find a problem that needs to be solved. It could be your problem, it could be somebody else that you see suffering from that problem, right? Once you identify the problem, it just gives you an area. You still need to identify your customer. Once you use a framework like jobs to be done, or whichever one takes you to the customer, and you have identified that customer, you identify what jobs need to be done, and you create a solution for it. That's your business. It's as easy as that. That's your business. Everything else after that is really designing the solution, showing it to the customer, getting feedback from the customer to say, hey, does this work? Are you willing to pay for this? No? Okay. You keep fine-tuning it until they're willing to pay for it, right? When they're willing to pay for it, then you have a business. You have
do you sell advertising, or have you ever sold sponsorships or ads or anything of those nature, anything like that?
Not yet. 'Cause at this point, I'm just like building the channel, searching for what Tool Thinker should be doing, which I know what it's going to do. It's really going to it's going to serve startup founders and give them all the resources, the knowledge, coaching that they need, just like the stuff that I'm talking about now, to bring clarity, and that will accelerate their startup journey.
I see what you're saying.
That's exactly what we're going to be doing. But
how big is the team? Is it just you and a couple folks?
It's just me and my friend Rydell.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so far. But we're at a stage now where we can 100% help these people to find that business, just like what I just said. It's as simple as that. Because once you find that and people are willing to pay for it, after that, all you have to do is scale. You just let other people know that you found the solution to this problem. So if you have this problem, hey, I've got the solution.
Yeah.
And that's when you start scaling now, where you start taking on, other people. And then because I work at scale, scaling is, I can give advice on scaling as well, because I'm director of operations. So I've learned everything that you would be doing at scale. So I could help somebody to scale, right? But really, Tool Thinker is really about getting you to your first $1,000.
Yeah.
And then somebody else would take it from there. We are really like, if you're at the ideation stage, you're still in you're still working a job and doing something on the side that you want to be a startup. You just aspire to start a new business. You don't have an idea yet. How do I find an idea? And then taking that idea and turning that into a solution to a problem, and start to get paid and scale. That's where we're going to be doing stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'll let you guys go.
All right, thanks. Great meeting you.
See you around.
All right, cool. Respect.